Gaseous exchange in humans. In humans and other higher animals, the exchange of gases is carried out by the respiratory system. We can divide the respiratory system into two parts, the air passageway and the lungs. The air passageway. The air passageway consists of the parts through which the outside air comes in the lungs, and after the exchange of gases, it goes out. This passage of air consists of the following parts. The nose encloses the nasal cavity. It opens to the outside through the opening called nostrils. The nasal cavity is divided into two portions by a wall. Each portion is lined by fine hairs and the mucus, which filter the dust particles from the air. The mucus also moisture and warm the incoming air and keep its temperature nearly equal to the body of human. The nasal cavity opens into the pharynx by means of two small openings called internal nostrils. Pharynx is a muscular passage and is common to both food and air. It extends to the opening of esophagus and the larynx. The air goes from the pharynx into larynx. We know that glottis is a narrow opening at the floor of the pharynx which leads into larynx. The larynx is a box made of cartilage. It is present between pharynx and trachea. It is also called voice box. Two pair of fibrous band called vocal cord are stretched across the larynx. The vocal cord vibrate when the air passes through them. These vibrations produce sounds. Larynx continue to the trachea, which is also called windpipe. It is about 12 cm long tube which lies in front of the esophagus. There are C-shaped cartilaginous rings in the wall of trachea. The cartilage keep the trachea from collapsing even when there is no air in it. On entering the chest cavity, the trachea divides into two smaller tubes called bronchi. The bronchi also have cartilaginous plates in their walls. Each bronchus enter into the lungs of its sides and then divide into smaller branches. The bronchi continue dividing in the lungs until they make several fine tubes called bronchioles. The bronchioles progressively loses the cartilage as they become narrow. The bronchioles end as fine tubular called the alveolar ducts. Each alveolar duct open into a cluster of pouches called alveoli. The alveoli form the respiratory surface in human body. Each alveolus is a sac-like structure lined by a single layer of epithelial cells. It is bound on the outside by a network of capillaries. The pulmonary artery from the heart continuing deoxygenated blood entered the lungs and the branches into the arterioles and then into the capillaries which surround the alveoli. These then join together to form the venulus which form pulmonary vein. The pulmonary vein carries the oxygenated blood back to the heart. Lungs. All the alveoli on one side constitutes a lungs. There is a pair of lungs in the thoracic cavity. The chest wall is made up of 12 pair of ribs and the rib muscle called intercostal muscles. A thick muscular structure called diaphragm is present below the lungs. The left lungs is slightly smaller and has 2 lobes, and the right lungs is bigger with 3 lobes. They are spongy and elastic organs. The lungs also have blood vessels that are the branches of the pulmonary arteries and veins. Each lung is enclosed by two membranes called the outer pleural membrane and the inner pleural membrane. The membrane includes a fluid which provides lubrication for the free expanding and contracting of the lungs. The mechanism of breathing. The physical movement associated with the gaseous exchange are called breathing. There are two phases of breathing. First, inhalation and exhalation. Inspiration or inhalation. During inspiration, the rib muscle contract and ribs are raised. At the same time, the dome-shaped diaphragm contract and is lowered. These movements increase the area of the thoracic cavity, which reduce the pressure on lungs. As a result, the lungs expand and the air pressure within them also decreases. The air from outside rushes into the lungs to equalize the pressure on both sides. Expiration or exhalation. After the gaseous exchange in the lungs, the impure air is expelled out in exhalation. The rib muscle relaxes, brings the ribs back to the original position. The diaphragm muscle also relaxes and it gets it raised dome shape. This reduces the space in the chest cavity and increase the pressure on lungs. The lung contract and the air is expelled out of them. Human breathe 16 to 20 times per minute in normal circumstances. The rate of breathing is controlled by the respiratory center in the brain. The respiratory center is sensitive to the concentration of carbon dioxide in the blood. When we do exercise or some hard job, our muscle cells carry out cellular respiration at a greater rate. It results in the production of more carbon dioxide, which is released in the blood. This greater than normal concentration of carbon dioxide stimulates the respiratory center of brain. The respiratory center sends message to the rib muscles and diaphragm to increase the rate of breathing so that the excess carbon dioxide present in blood can be removed out of body. During exercise or other hard physical works, the breathing rate may increase up to 30 to 40 times per minute. Table represents the comparison between inspired and expired air. In inspired air, amount of oxygen is 21%. Expired air contain amount of oxygen 16%. Amount of carbon dioxide in inspired air 0.04%. Amount of carbon dioxide in expired air is 4%. Amount of nitrogen in inspired air 79%. Amount of nitrogen in expired air 79%. Amount of water vapors in inspired air variables. Amount of water vapors in expired air saturated. Amount of dust particles in inspired air variable. Amount of dust particle in expired air almost none. Temperature in inspired air variables. Temperature of expired air almost equal to the body temperature.